Many board gamers who've played ARCS are claiming that 3 players is the ideal number to play this game at. We've played it at 4, we've played it at 3, and we're going to weigh in today on Legendary Tactics, which is the better player count for ARCS. Okay, so let's begin. Now we need to establish that the first game we played, I won. The second game we played,
that was 4 players.
You won. That's right. And yours was the 3-player win. Mine was a 4-player win. And that may have something to do with which count we actually prefer. But let's start with us, and we'll finish up with your opinion on this one. So do you prefer 3 or 4 players, and why?
I really enjoyed the 3-player game much more than the 4th-player game. I felt the scores were close between us much more. I felt the game was snappier, although this was our second game, so that might have been a bit of the reason why. But I just felt I had more control and agency both with the cards and with what was happening on the board.
Okay, I'll argue an upside for the 3-player as well, even though I disagree with you. I actually preferred it at 4 players. But at 3 players, I think I was able to manage more what everyone at the table was doing. I felt with 4 players, it was so busy and there's so many cards. And this way we all played on the same side of the table so we could all read the card text. And I thought that was a really huge benefit to the game because you're actually gaming each other in this game. There's so much strategy with the interplay of what people have on their cards. In 4-player, granted, it was our first kick at it. It was so overwhelming. There was a lot going on. So I like that.
Yeah, one of the benefits I found of the 3-player was the board seemed less cluttered. There was like one center there that was empty for a lot of the game.
Right.
Right. So people had the option
with the catapult.
Like the slingshot catapult thing. Yeah. So I think that would be a pro for the 3-player.
Right. Yeah, we didn't guard the gates as much. And so movement was a little more free.
Okay, so one downside that we have to the 3-player game is that the 7 cards aren't included. And when you play a 7, you immediately take the initiative. So I found in the 3-player game, I didn't have the right suited cards, and you played a lot of high cards, and that was a good strategy. But I never had the ability in my hand to take the initiative, which means I never had the ability to set the ambition. And so for me, that was a major downside because it made it very difficult to get really engaged.
Although you still finished in second place, a strong second place. So, I mean, obviously you were able to adapt to the different strategies. Now, I will say, I do feel like I was gifted nice cards for, at least for the first few hands.
But even later in the game, right? Like you had initiative, and then you led a 2. And I was laughing because I had a 5 and a 6, but they were the wrong suit.
Right.
Yes. And there was nothing. It was comical to me.
Yes.
Because I had discarded the wrong thing, right? And so.
But isn't that like a game of euchre or something?
Oh, it is.
That's right.
Absolutely, it is. Yep. But euchre, a round of euchre doesn't take as long. Like it was comical in that sense, right?
Okay.
Like a round of euchre. Okay, how long does that take? Like 4 tricks and you're done. You move on, right? Whereas here it was. I think the 4th or 5th card laid in a chapter, and it was.
And that's going to come down to luck of the draw. If you happen to get a lot of suited cards and you played the strategy of play high, work your way down, and then people were bleeding themselves out of the suit and it just never lined up. So solid. Okay, we'll move on. So I'm actually going to make an argument for the 4-player game. I loved the chaos of 4 players. I love that people were always getting attacked. In this game, I actually was able to, in the 3-player game, I was able to sit back and watch these 2 duke it out. And so you do have that danger of you 2 were attacking each other for the sake of attacking each other, because you'd done some wrong to him, and then it was just fun to go back, and that's part of the fun of the game is, well, fine, I have no other good move to do, so I'm just going to blow you up, take some trophies, and potentially down the road win the Warlord. And so in the 4-player game, I think there's a lot more potential for different rivalries and different alignments depending on how the game goes. And for me, the huge benefit is having that 7 so you can steal the initiative if you play it early and you really want it. So I think that's massive.
I liked being able to calculate the hand a little bit more. Knowing that a 7 wasn't going to come out of left field. Also, 1s in the 4-player game don't allow you to claim an ambition.
Right.
And so when we played the 4-player game, I had a lot of 1s.
But they're so powerful. They add a lot of fun to the game because you get a ton of actions.
Yes, but you get the same number of actions with a 2. And with a 2, I can declare tycoon sort of thing, right? So.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. 4-player, advantage, disadvantage?
Yeah, I think the 4-player, having the extra player on the board does prevent like just 2 players just kind of grinding it out like we had in this game. And I do agree the 7s being able to just stop the person from just running the gambit through.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like, keeping that.
One other argument, I think it actually made the game a lot closer with 4 players because it was much harder to focus enough energy on one of these. It's going to be really tight, right? Like if you declare Tycoon, everyone is suddenly going to be producing. And now you're up against 3 opponents. And so it felt like you were just getting this by the skin of your teeth. Whereas in this game, like we had giant piles and it was really clear if you could get the initiative, hit your ambition, you could score it easily. No one's going to contest you. But in a 4-player game, you got to watch out because there's going to be stealing of cards. There's going to be a lot more interactions that could mess up your game. So I would argue that if you like a much more predictable game, 3 might be a better player count. If you like a little more randomness and chaos, 4 might be the way to go.
Which does, and that does make it harder to plan.
It does. It does make it much harder.
For this and your hand and different pieces.
Now I will say I didn't feel in the 4-player game that I could plan anything. I was just being pushed around by the wash of, and I had the lead occasionally, but I always felt like I was just being pushed around, and we didn't when we had the 4 scores, there were 2 people who had a great score and 2 people who had low
a bigger
scores.
Differential. Yeah,
I felt, and so in that case, I don't feel like you had claimed it was closer. I feel like the 3-player kept us all closer.
Part of, I think, our first game was I stumbled onto a really winning strategy. And so we found that this Cloud Cities, the person who had that card won both games because suddenly you're getting 5 extra points for each ambition that you score. So this card
and it's hard for someone to stop you building those cities.
It is hard because to go in, the cost is really great to blow those up. So this one is quite a strong card.
There is, of course, the fact that you can blow up those cities, and that's where you get some outrage. And you actually did that. I thought that was actually very interesting when that happened. It felt like there was a swing to what was going on at that moment. I felt there was some pain when you blew up my cities and everything, right?
Well, and the problem is if you disperse your resources enough, it's hard for your opponents to declare an ambition because if you're competing in everything, at the last second you can lay a couple of cards and really push forward that way. So in a smaller, tighter game, you can I think diversify that way. In a 4-player game, it would be hard to diversify and beat everybody. So let's come to the final word. Rusky, we've got an argument for each. So where do you weigh in?
Well, this might be, I see pros and cons to both. And this might be just the hands that we've been dealt and the games that we've played, admittedly. For me in this game, first game, I admit I didn't really kind of know. I felt like, much like Gastel, like I felt like without a rudder. This time I had a better sense of what I was doing, but I really felt like from the second hand that the game was Gastel's. And I didn't feel like I don't know if it was only the 2 of us or if it was the lack of the 4th player or not. That it wasn't.
You were very close.
It came close, but I never felt like it was in doubt. And in fact, I didn't think it was going to go to the 5th chapter. I thought it was going to end after 4.
If I had been one of these less, then suddenly your score would have gone up dramatically.
Yeah, we would have flip-flopped.
Yeah, but you might have actually contended with him. So you were still in this game, but
no, but maybe I just didn't get that sense. Now I had fun playing it. I still enjoy the game. I still enjoy the mechanisms and stuff like that. For me, it was frustrating to not be able to break up Gastel's run.
Yes, me too.
And for me, that was why I would say a 4-player game. Because you have that opportunity to say enough is enough.
Right.
We're moving on. I'm taking the initiative, and away we go.
That's good.
And so that would be the deal breaker for me at this stage of having played 2, 1 of each. But if I was in Gastel's shoes, I might like the 3 better too.
The 3 was great for me.
So ultimately, I think we have enjoyed it at 3 players and at 4 players. This is based on a limited number of plays, so please take it with a grain of salt. Just our initial impressions are we're both leaning towards the 4-player. You're leaning towards 3, but I'd be happy to play at any of those counts. So let us know in the comments, what do you like it at? 2-player, 3-player, or 4-player? Now get out there.
Get gaming.
And be legendary.